What is going on, everybody? Shwazy here, and in today's video we're going to be taking delivery of the all-new 2023 Mercedes Benz EQE 500 SUV. Today's video we're going to do a quick 360 outside inside and give you my first impressions sitting behind the wheel of this all-electric crossover. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the Mercedes Benz EQE 500, what exactly is this vehicle? Well, this shares the exact same name as the EQE sedan, which has the exact same platform, wheelbase, everything like that. And this is the crossover version, so it's a little bit taller, it's got a little bit more cargo volume, and this is essentially the mid-size crossover in the lineup of Mercedes-Benz electric vehicles. They have 5 electric vehicles, this is one of them, and the length of this car is just around 191, 192 inches, which is about the same size as the Mercedes-Benz GLE, so that's the mid-size crossover. In today's video, we're just going to do a quick outside-inside walk-around. I'm going to make a full comprehensive video about this car, talking about all of the specs, but today I just want to show this vehicle off and kind of give you a sneak peek of everything that's in store for the full review. Now, starting off with the design, you'll notice this is a lot more swoopier and smoother than a lot of the other Mercedes products out there, and you know, whether you like that or not, they need to do that in order to improve aerodynamics and improve efficiency, which means better range. Now, you'll see that this has this light bar that extends all the way from the passenger to the driver's side. You got the EQE 500 badge, your typical Mercedes badge, and this button actually activates the power liftgate. This is 4MATIC, which just means it's a dual motor setup, rear and front. And then down here, of course, there's no exhaust pipes because, well, this is an all-electric vehicle, but you have some nice chrome touches. Now, keep in mind, even though this is the EQE 500, it's the bigger, more powerful version, this isn't like an AMG or anything like that. This isn't meant to be a powerful electric vehicle. Even though it is pretty quick, this is more meant for luxuriousness. And you'll notice that especially as we step inside. So that's why you have a lot of chrome touches here. Nothing's really blacked out because it's meant to be more luxurious than it is sporty. Now, over here on the side, you'll notice you have the recessed door handles, which pop out if you touch them. I'm hit or miss on these door handles. I actually prefer conventional door handles because I just feel like this overcomplicates things, but that's kind of where the industry is going. And, you know, a lot of manufacturers are doing this, even on non-electric vehicles. But I do like that there is a little light bar in here, so especially at night, it looks really good. And then as you approach the vehicle with the key in your pocket, the doors will automatically come out, which is kind of a nice touch. Coming over here to the A-pillar, you got the EQE badge. And then as we zoom out, you'll notice that, again, it has a little bit more of a swoopier stance to it. This actually reminds me somewhat of the Mercedes R-Class from back in the day, which I don't know if you guys remember what that was, but it was kind of a odd-looking hatchback, and this kind of reminds me a little bit of it. I prefer the look of the muscular GLE more than the EQE, but again, they do have to make this a little bit smoother for aerodynamics sake. And speaking of aerodynamics, you have 20-inch rims, but as you can see, they've added these plastic parts over here in order to improve the efficiency and the range of this vehicle. But these are 5-spoke. They're supposed to be AMG wheels, but like I said, this isn't an AMG sporty model. There are more powerful electric vehicles on the market. And coming over to the front, you know, I think it's a pretty good looking design. My particular vehicle does have the light bar that extends all the way driver to passenger side, which kind of matches the rear end. And then you'll notice there's not a physical grille here. This is kind of just a plastic sheet which has some little Mercedes logos because, of course, electric vehicles do not need a grille to cool down an engine. Overall, the front is very recognizable, very similar to Mercedes products. Some nice touch of kind of a brushed aluminum with the body painted color, and this is the twilight blue metallic exterior color. Now, talking about these headlights, these are the full LED headlights, but they also have a pretty cool lighting effect where at night you can activate with the infotainment screen a setting where it will flash different types of images or patterns onto the road or in front of you so that you can kind of have a little bit of a light show when you're sitting in the driver's seat. It's a little funky. I've seen something similar in the GLE, but this kind of takes it to the next level. And then before we jump inside, I do want to talk about the exterior sound effects. So again, with an option you can activate in the infotainment screen, this car will actually make a sound on the outside. So let's see if you can take a listen. Okay, so I switched the mic position. Take a listen if you can hear the sound of the Mercedes EQE. It's kind of got this like Dark Knight like sound to it, and there's actually I think 3 or so different sounds on the infotainment screen that you can regulate, but it kind of sounds pretty cool. And it also is meant for pedestrian safety, so if you're driving this vehicle around at low speeds, it does make kind of an audible sound so that, you know, pedestrians can hear you, because electric cars are more dangerous that way since you can't really hear them. Also, when you're backing up this vehicle, it will make kind of a beeping sound, kind of like a pickup truck or a dump truck, just so people are aware that you're backing up. So safety features, but pretty cool that they've included that in the EQE. All right, now let's talk about range. As you open up the charging port, this does have DC fast charging capabilities, and Mercedes says with the 170 kilowatt charger, this thing can go from 10 to 80% in just about 32 minutes. So for long road trips, that's really helpful to have. Now, I do want to talk about the 3 trim levels that are available, because they offer different types of batteries and ranges and powertrain. So this one being the EQE 500, it is the top of the line. This one comes with a dual motor setup, 90.6 kilowatt battery, and it has a whopping 402 horsepower and 633 pound-feet of torque. In this configuration, the EQE will do 0 to 60 in just about 4.6 seconds. Now, in terms of range, it's about 269 miles. Now, one more thing to mention about this EQE 500 is all the 500 trim levels have rear wheel steering, so it can turn upwards of 10 degrees when you're pulling in tight parking spots. And I've actually noticed it work. So I've been in a pretty tight parking spot. I try to do a quick 180, and this thing's turning radius is much smaller than that of like a regular conventional crossover. So I do like the fact that this does have rear wheel steering. Okay, now let's jump inside the vehicle, because that's probably my favorite part. Now, this is the reason I don't really like automatic door handles that recess, because sometimes they just don't work as well as they should, but I chalk that up to user error. Now, starting off, the door panel is really beautiful. You've got blue leather with white leather. You've got some copper stitching and copper trim that goes all the way on the interior. I mean, Mercedes knows how to make a beautiful interior. I honestly think I like Mercedes interior better than exteriors, but nice aluminum bezels over here. It's like a floating pillar. You've got the 15-speaker Burmester audio system, even aluminum touches on your lift button down there, then a little bit of storage compartment. This is hard touch plastic, but everything else is soft touch material. You've got nice leather seats. These are actually gray leather is what they call them, with like a Biscaya blue, if I'm pronouncing it right, on the floor mats and on the door panel. But seats have a really nice design to them. These are only heated seats. They don't have ventilated functionality, but you can get that as an option if you want to pay for it. Now, climbing inside, this is a pretty familiar place. If you guys have sat in, say, Mercedes E-Class or even the EQE sedan, of course, which this one is based off of, very similar platform. Even the current generation C-Class has this similar kind of 12.8-inch infotainment screen, and then you have a 12.3-inch instrument gauge cluster display. And I've shown this off in other Mercedes models. It's pretty easy and intuitive to use. You've got your quick access buttons over here, so if you click that button, you can cycle through the different settings. These are all touch sensitive controls, so even though I'm pushing like one giant button, it knows where my finger is located. And then you've got your cruise control settings over here down at the bottom. Now, the cruise control is probably one of the most advanced I've experienced. This thing will actually change lanes for you when it feels like it's necessary. So what I mean by that is, if I set the cruise control at, say, 75 miles an hour, but the vehicle in front of me is going, say, 65, but there's space to the left of me, well, this vehicle will actually turn the blinker on and change lanes for me if it feels like it's appropriate and can get up to speed. And then once it feels like it's holding up traffic, it will move back into the right lane to get out of the way. So it works better than most drivers do. So kind of interesting there. Although I have noticed that this vehicle kind of bugs you to make sure you move the steering wheel, whereas the GLE I reviewed, I simply had to just hold the steering wheel and it did its job. So it's a little bit more sensitive in that aspect. On the right hand side, this is how you control your infotainment screen over here. So if you hit this home button, it will pull up your home settings. Then you can cycle through by swiping. So pretty cool, and lots of redundancies here. Of course, this is a touchscreen as well, so you can just use your hands to do that. On the left-hand side, you've got this beautiful air vent over here. It's even got ambient lighting. And then speaking of ambient lighting, let's talk about all of the ambient lighting in this vehicle. I mean, I currently have it on the purple color because I just really like how that looks, but take a look at that. They've even got it over here on the door panel, down at the bottom, and even on the seats themselves. You've got ambient lighting located right over here on the seat cushion. That's pretty interesting. I haven't seen that before. And then you've got this beautiful wood paneling all throughout. It's even got little Mercedes emblems on it as well. Really nice touch and just a beautiful interior overall. And now let's talk about this infotainment screen. If you guys have experienced Mercedes models in the past, this is the same exact software. Some cool snazzy tricks here. You've got different ambient lighting like I showed off earlier. There's 64 different colors. You can also have different effects. So let's say I turn up the temperature here, it's gonna flash red. If I turn it down, it's gonna flash blue. So I've shown this off in previous vehicles, but it's still a cool feature to show. Now you can get the air fragrance system. This particular vehicle of mine does not have that, but that way it will pump a fragrance inside of the cabin. And I do like that this location of this screen is very easy to reach. So a lot of the other competitors have the screens all the way up here, and so you kind of have to reach to be able to navigate it. Whereas here I can rest my elbow on this armrest and simply just push this button. Very easy to use. I do like the positioning of that more than the GLE I reviewed. And then going into your settings, this is where I was talking about the lighting, where they call it the digital light. And with that digital light, you've got you know, these welcome farewell projections. So that's where something called digital rain or particle flow, and that's where the headlights will flash on the ground, kind of giving you an effect. And then this is also where you can control the vehicle sound. So like I said, there's 3 different sound options, currently roaring, pulse, and I don't know if you can hear it, but the car is currently pumping that sound into the cabin even though I'm not moving. It really amplifies it when I'm stepping on the accelerator, but otherwise it kind of still continues to pump it in. Here's Vivid Flux, and here's Silver Waves. So pretty cool, and again, it'll pump that sound outside as well, so nice functionality. And then coming over here, you've got this opening flap that if you close it up, you got some piano black plastic, but opening it up, you can open up your cup holders, and you can actually slide them out of the way. It's a little bit of an awkward procedure, but once you do that, you have a larger space over here. Little wireless charging pad, 2 USB ports, pretty soft center arm console, and I will say it's really deep. Like my elbow's in here and it's just touching the bottom, so that's pretty cool. Lots of storage compartment space, and then you have this big floating center arm console with a little strap down here where you can kind of strap down some valuables so they don't roll around, and then you've got 2 USB ports down there as well, and of course more ambient lighting. Now coming up to the top, this is kind of cool. So you got more ambient lighting, similar to like something you'd find in an airplane, but what I do like, aside from your light controls over here, if you swipe, it will open up your sunshade and even the sunroof itself. So that's a pretty cool feature. Now, I think you can push on this button as well, and it works pretty well. You think it would glitch a little bit more than it does. Unfortunately, no digital mirror here, which kind of surprises me. Okay, now let's jump into the second row. Not as much to report back here. Same nice use of materials, ambient lighting on the door. Speaker grille looks really nice, and the seats are very nice as well. In terms of legroom, this is a little bit more than the GLE, but definitely plenty of space for any adult to sit back here. Doesn't feel very tight at all. And then there's no center hump because of course this is an electric vehicle, so you don't need a big transmission tunnel. You got 2 air vents over here. You can get up to 4-zone climate control, but you got to pick a higher trim level, 2 USB ports, and then of course you've got a beautiful view up top and 2 cup holders located in the center compartment as well. It's a pretty nice soft padded armrest, but other than that, the second row is kind of bland compared to the first row. Now, climbing into the trunk area, it's a little bit smaller than some of the competition. You're looking at about 14 cubic feet of space, but not too bad overall. It's pretty flat loading floor, and then you've got a little cigarette style adapter, and then little hooks for you to hang some groceries, a little net over here, and then underneath, a pretty okay size amount of space. Of course, there's no spare tire here. This is just a fix-a-flat kit and an air compressor, but then you have a little bit more space down there as well. So a decent amount of covered storage. And then here's the lighting effect at night. So this is what it looks like with this LED light bar. I do like this kind of squiggly line LED in the back. Looks pretty good from the rear end. Well, there you have it, folks. That was a somewhat quick exterior interior 360 walk around. Now, in terms of my impressions of this vehicle, it's a little bit too early to tell, but so far I'm enjoying it. I like the looks of the interior more than the exterior. I prefer a little bit more of a muscular look, but at the same time I understand it has to be more aerodynamic. At the same time, I do like the tech on the inside, and then driving this vehicle around just for the last day, I've noticed it's very smooth, very luxurious on the inside. It's a Mercedes through and through. It definitely doesn't feel like a lot of other electric vehicles I've driven. This feels a little bit more premium in terms of how it drives down the road. But stay tuned for the full review for all the details. In case you're wondering about pricing on this, the EQE 500 starts just around $90,000, but this one with the additional options and the exclusive trim level, this one's around $98,000. So it's definitely a pretty penny. It's not a cheap vehicle, but you get a lot of cool features that you don't necessarily find with some of the other competitors. But what are your thoughts on the EQE? Let me know down in the comments below, and stay tuned for the full comprehensive review of this EQE 500. So make sure you subscribe so you can stay on top of all of the weekly videos. But until next time, everybody, I hope you stay schwazy, stay healthy, have a wonderful day.